Labor's new capital gains tax will drive up rents and reduce the number of rental homes available. That's number one. Number two, GPs. Chris Hipkins says that this tax will pay for 3 free GP visits a year. Sounds nice, but where are all the doctors coming from? It already takes 2 to 3 weeks to get in with a GP. There aren't spare doctors waiting in the wings. Unless he's got a magic wand, that promise just won't fly. Honestly, you'd get more value by handing out coffee vouchers. At least people would see their mates and stay connected. That's social care that actually works. And it wouldn't clog up clinics with stuff that doesn't need a doctor. This capital gains tax targets property only. Investment properties, commercial properties. Not the family home, not farms, not shares. So the message is really clear. Landlords, you're not wanted, so get out. I started after COVID. I could see the writing on the wall, and I started selling down my New Zealand property and moving into offshore share markets. And the whole ideology has changed in New Zealand. It's a shame because I built a lot of housing over the last 20 years, and that money went to builders and plumbers and sparkies and all these local businesses. It went to councils, it went to lawyers. But today, that's not productive. Rental housing is not productive. Fine, I'll take my money and invest it in overseas stock markets. Why would I put it in rental housing in New Zealand when I'm getting 2 to 3% net? I mean, at the end of the day, people investing in rental housing in New Zealand are gambling on capital gains. That's it. Capital gains might not be as high as they were in the past. And then if you bring in the potential for a capital gains tax, there's just nothing in it. There's no point. So landlords are going to pass this cost on. You don't run a business for free. So if you do stay in the rental housing, Treasury modelling says rents will go up about 5% straight away when you bring this in. So tenants are paying. Rental supply will also shrink. If you keep taxing the upside, people are not going to buy and build new rental housing, okay? They'll hold what they got or they'll sell it. So fewer rentals means less choice and higher rents, and a lot more pressure on social housing, on state housing. Hipkins is going to have to come up with billions to house people that private landlords used to house. Now, here's another one for small business owners. Watch out, because you'll be hit. If you use part of your house to work from home, and you claim the exemptions you do now, like your home office expenses and stuff like that, you get pinged for capital gains tax for that portion of the house. So chances are most small business owners won't be able to claim in future. Higher taxes on you as well. And here's another unintended consequence. The property market jams up. Because if you don't sell, you don't make a profit, so you don't pay tax, right? So you hold on to it. So older buildings don't get redeveloped. That creative destruction goes away and the market becomes really sluggish. If I look at most of the townhouses I've built over the years, I've taken old homes that are past their use-by date. They're just old, damp, they haven't got insulation, they haven't got double glazing, whatever. We knock them down and we build new houses in their place. Well, if people don't sell those older homes because they'll have to pay tax on them, we can't redevelop. I mean, that's a real problem. It'll also be a problem for people leasing commercial buildings, people owning commercial buildings, because we need businesses to be able to move, because ideally businesses grow, right? So someone small starts out in 100 square meter space, then they need a 200 and a 300 and so on. And there are a lot of owner-occupied businesses because commercial leases can be really pricey and maybe you want to adjust the building to your own preferences. Well, if they can't buy the next size up because someone's holding on to it, that could be a problem. And yeah, there'll be some leases available and so on, but overall, the market clogs up. And finally, the whole system will be really messy. People will reclassify assets, they'll use trusts, they'll go offshore. The IRD ends up chasing lawyers and accountants. IRD revenue could even fall in downturns because the losses get claimed. If you have to pay tax on a gain, you can also claim tax on a loss. So the Treasury can't bank on steady cash flow. So look, if you want fairness, then fair enough. But hitting one asset class harder and leaving others alone creates a lot of problems. And why are Labor's new policies always about taxes? It's always about redistribution. It's never about growth. How can we create more productivity? I want to live in a country where more people are prosperous. I'd love it if all the people around me were doing well and they're in their business or their job and they were making reasonable money and they could live in their own home and they could look after their kids and they had the things that they need. That's the kind of society that I want to live in. Just taxing people who are doing well, people who are working hard, who are being productive. At the end of the day, you only make money if you solve problems. That's how you make money. Zig Ziglar said, you can get whatever you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. Wealthy people are not evil people who've stolen the money. They're generally people who have have created a business that has solved a problem and they have profited from that. That's how it works, okay? Now, we should be supporting that. How do we get more businesses to grow? How do we get more people to do better? Because just taxing people and redistributing, there's no more money, right? The same amount of money is in the economy when you add new taxes. It just means you're taking it off the people who could be reinvesting and growing and accelerating and buying new plant and equipment, hiring new staff. You're taking it away from those people and giving it to people who don't create anything. And look, I know there are some people who struggle. There's all kinds of people in the world, right? And some people have medical and physical issues. There's mental issues. There's all kinds of stuff. And I'm very grateful that I'm healthy and I can do the things I want to do. So look, I'm not knocking people who are struggling, but there are some people who are taking the piss, right? And there's some people who are just claiming everything they can, and they're just a huge burden on everybody else. But I don't think that's not the majority. This isn't about not helping people who need it. It just seems so dumb. Just more and more tax all the time. And more tax also means bigger government, right? Bigger government means more waste. It means more people hired to have meetings and to come up with more rules that add more compliance, more bureaucracy, more red tape, more cost. That doesn't produce anything, okay? It's just always about creating this sludge. It's one of the reasons that I'm doing less now in my business than I ever have in terms of development. It's the sludge. It's like walking through treacle, trying to get consents, trying to deal with all the consultants and all the hassle and the red tape. You know, we don't need it. It's not good for us. It's not good for the country. It's not good for any of us because we're all connected, right? So if you're bringing in new taxes on private long-term rental providers, property investors, you're taxing them, then that money has to come from somewhere. You don't just keep on doing business and earning less and less money, so you pass it on in the rents. It also has effects like people like me go, look, the writing's on the wall for rental housing in New Zealand. You know, I've already started getting out because the ideology has changed. When I got into rental housing, the government actively supported rental housing. They wanted people to invest in residential rental property. They wanted you to do that because they knew that the government couldn't do it. It's very, very expensive for a government to build and manage and maintain social housing. It is a massive cost. Whereas mum and dads who own one or two properties, a lot of that cost doesn't show up, okay? It doesn't show up in the balance sheet. They're working in the evenings, they're doing the accounts, they're organizing maintenance, they're driving to a property on the weekend and working in the gardens or painting or something. That doesn't show up anywhere, right? If that's social housing, they need to organize contractors and suppliers, commercial arrangements. You know, people need to make a margin on their work. The costs are so much higher to run government social housing than private rental housing. But that's never brought up as an argument. It's never discussed. It's always just residential property investors are greedy and they don't pay enough tax. That's it. But what about the service that they provide? What about the fact that they house people? I still have a property here in Cambridge that I bought in 1998. Until now, what's that, like 27, 28 years? That house has been available for rent all the time for 28 years. Multiple families have lived in that property. Is that not an important and valuable service? And sure, I've made money on it. If I sell it now, there's been a capital gain. But everything's gone up. It's called inflation. The only reason that house has gone up so much is because the cost to replace it is so much higher. Most houses in New Zealand sell at the replacement cost plus a margin. Unless your house is in a very special, unique location. Maybe it's in the mountains in Queenstown or it's overlooking the ocean. You get a premium. But a lot of standard homes, your 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, double garage home on a block of land, generally sells around the replacement cost. What it would cost me to buy a section and build the house and sell it to you, I need to, you know, it'll be somewhere around that mark, maybe a little bit more sometimes. Depends. In a housing boom, then prices go up a bit over the replacement cost, and then they settle back, or the replacement costs go up, which is what's happened since COVID. House prices jumped, and then all the costs came afterwards, you know, because of all the inflation, all the money that was created over COVID and just wasted and just spent on rubbish. All that money goes somewhere, right? There's more money chasing the same amount of goods and services. So everything to do with housing has increased. all the consents, the development contributions, the building materials, the labor, the steps that you need to take, all the bureaucracy, the consultants, all of that's increased massively. So it costs so much more to build a house in New Zealand today. In fact, in many parts of the country right now, it costs more to build a new house than it does to buy an existing one. So it's actually flipped because the costs have been increasing so rapidly. What do you think is going to happen if a capital gains tax like this comes in? The costs are going to increase massively again. This is going to be a huge boon for accountants and solicitors. I mean, the amount of arguing, the amount of restructuring of companies and trusts, and, you know, how do you classify your property? Is it mixed use commercial when there's some farmland? Okay, well, now half the property's farmland, right? Because no tax on that, but you do have to pay tax on your business. You know, there'll be all kinds of perverse consequences that come out of a specialized little tax like this. And how many people are actually going to pay it? People like me, anyway. If I touch any property, if I do anything to a property, if I develop it in any way, I pay my full income tax on the property, okay? Boom, so I'm taxed. If you're in the business of property, or if you're a developer who buys a rental and holds it for more than 10 years, then you don't have to pay tax, but within the 10 years you do. So there's already all kinds of people who are paying tax on property, okay? They already did this carve out. Now they're just extending it a little bit more. I just don't think it makes sense. It just sounds really complicated, and all it is, it's politicking, right? Hipkins is trying to appeal to his voters, who are by and large people who think that life is unfair and they're not getting enough. They don't understand that if they want more, then they need to provide more value themselves, okay? They need to learn, they need to study, they need to read books, they need to speak to people who are doing what they want to do, or people who are ahead of them on the curve. You know, they need to try to do more at work, work longer hours, put in more effort, be a better employee, be someone that your employer doesn't want to lose. You get pay rises. You know, look, do you know how hard it is to find an employee that you really like and want to keep and does a great job? Every business in the country would love to hire someone who turns up on time, who does the best they can, who wants to learn, who asks questions, who is genuinely interested in the business and wants to be part of it and wants to be successful. That's how you get ahead, not getting a handout from the government who's taken it from somebody else. You're not getting ahead. You'll never win that way. You might get another $25 a week, big whoop. Then the costs go up $25 a week and you're back at zero. And the other side of it, the thing I really don't like about social welfare and about handouts is that it actually steals opportunity from people. I can't remember the exact numbers, but they said something like people who are 18, 19, 20 years old today, if they go on a benefit, they're likely to be on a benefit for some really long time, like 10 or 15 years. Can you imagine that all through your 20s and maybe into your 30s, you haven't had a job, you haven't worked? You miss out on so much of what's good about life. If I think about how many experiences I've had through work, just the people that you meet in the workplace, the courses that you do, maybe your work sends you somewhere on a trip, so you get to visit other places, the things you learn, the self-respect that comes from earning money, from going to work and working all day and coming home and being able to put your feet up and have a beer because I've done my bit, you know, like, I mean, and I'm and I'm not saying if you're in a relationship, don't just put your feet up. Go and help with bloody dinner or make the dinner yourself, you lazy bugger. But the point is, you can, if you put in a good day's work, then you can relax. You feel good about yourself. You know that you've contributed, and now you can enjoy yourself, or you can relax on the weekend, or you can go and do your sport, or whatever it is that you do that makes you feel good. But I'm damn sure that if you sit around all day with nothing to do, nowhere to be, and you're smoking pot and playing video games and whatever, yeah, sounds awesome for a weekend. If that's your life, you poor bastard, you know, that's just, you're losing out on so much. And that's why I just think this whole redistribution thing doesn't make sense. Why are we not helping those 18, 19, 20-year-olds get a job? Help them get the skills they need to be employable and to get ahead and to feel good about themselves. That's what we really should be doing. Chris, I mean, if the best policy you can come up with is more tax, then really get another job. You could let someone else into the main position in Labour to come up with actual policies to actually help the people who support you and vote for you. Because a lot of Labour voters, I imagine, are struggling. and they're maybe in crap paid jobs and they're not doing very well, which is why a lot of them are quite angry and they want more taxes because it's not fair. But wouldn't you rather have a Labour leader who lifted people up, who helps give them skills and encouragement and help them get ahead? You know, that's my rant. Thanks.